Hello, Saber Legion. How we doing? Welcome to another episode of Repost and Riposte. Today, the discussion is going to be talking again about some bad habits that happen a lot of times in TSL. That happen in any martial art, really, but just kind of breaking down some of those things and how you can fix them. As always, I'll be here to answer questions, other training questions that you might have. But let me just make sure that this is all kind of breaking down some of those things. All right, cool. So that will be the focus. Today's topic is moving the body before the blade, and I mean that as that's the bad habit that we're trying to fix, and the importance of making sure that your blade is moving before your body. There are numerous reasons why we would do that. Some of them are offensive reasons, some of them are defensive, but in general, it's just a good habit to have. So let me just check chat here. Hey, Mark, how we doing? Good to see you. Okay, cool. So yes, body before blade. Give you a little overview before I kind of go into the details of it. So essentially, the body before blade concept is meaning that if I'm going to attack you, right, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to swing my arm and and get a strike, but maybe I'm going to step in, whether with a lunge, with an advance, any type of footwork or whatever, that I might say if I'm going to step and hit you, that I step with my foot and I move forward and then I strike, right? Or if I'm lunging, I move in with my leg and then I extend my arm. So that's the basic concept of it. But it can go deeper than that, and it can become more nuanced. But it applies to a lot of situations. But the big thing is that action isn't necessarily a good thing for a number of reasons. But I'm going to go into them as I approach it. But the first reason is in regards to your opponent. Your opponent is watching you. Your opponent can only react to what they see or hear. Like they can only react to what they sense, essentially, whatever sense they're using. Hopefully, they're not using taste. But whatever they can see or hear, typically, right, is what they're going to react to. If they see something, a bigger object in motion, they will be able to react to it faster because their eye will catch it. And as I said, that means that this swinging my arm, extending my arm into a thrust, is a smaller action than, say, moving my whole body forward and then extending. If I move my whole body, it's very easy. Just you looking at the camera right now, right? It's very easy to see. I'm just going to tilt this down one sec here. There we go. You can see it's getting a little blown out there. Okay, so it's very easy to see me moving, right? My whole body, even if like I'm just moving in my chair, right? It's very easy. But this is harder to see, right? You don't see it. If you're the opponent and I extend to you, that is, you can see, it's harder to see that than it is to see you saw my whole body move in. You had time to react before the actual attack came into play. So I've been studying my silver? No, I have not. False times. Yes, but I have not been studying my silver. I've been looking at I'm just approaching this from like things I'm regularly reviewing with people in like my rapier class, and and then I watch some TSL fights and things I'm reminded of that I see a lot of, and it's things that can be avoided, and they will improve the quality of fights in general. Like I think that I look at it from the perspective of like the why I do these. It's like it's a rising tide, essentially. That's kind of the whole point. If I can make everybody in TSL better, It makes the organization better. It makes the fights better. It makes the tournaments better. It makes me better. Even though technically, yes, these are things I know, so I did not learn it from Silver. I just kind of got it from, just kind of, pick it up from my own experience, but then on top of that, learning from different people and everything. So, all right, so let me flip to here. All right, make sure that flipped. Okay. All right, so when I'm talking about body before blade, like I say, I was talking about primarily if I am moving my body in some way um, in conjunction with an attack, right? Like I said, the easiest one to understand this is a lunge, because it's the most obvious um, reasoning for why you move your blade before your body instead of moving your body first, right? So if I'm here and I'm ready to lunge, I'm just going to do a very basic one, right? And I've extended my blade, and I move in with the rest of my body, and the blade moves in. That's a good basic lunge. If I do this, if I step and then extend, it's a much, much bigger action in regards to reaction time for my opponent, because that's all that happened, right? And this could mean anything. I could do here and then go to a cut, or I could do multiple things. But if I'm coming forward like this, there's only so much I can do within that, right? But on top of that, again, it's the size of the target that is moving, the object that is moving. The larger the target, the easier it is to tell what's happening, and that's part of what fencing is it's the tell. It's understanding that, if I do this, you see this happening, right? If I do this, it's a little bit harder to see it happening. One reason, obviously, as I said, is smaller movement, right? This is a much smaller movement. The other reason with the lunge, why it's so cool, is if you think about a human with depth perception, right? That's one thing we're bad at. We're bad at depth perception, right? If I'm extending into Bob here, it's difficult to see an object moving forward like that. It's difficult to judge that depth. So it's literally using the flaws of how our eyes work against us, right? That is a harder object to see. But on the flip side, this is a very easy thing for those eyes to see. But this is a little bit harder, and especially if I extend and I move into that body and I essentially hit them right there. So if I extend, yes, they see it and they can react, but then I can also have a chance to react as well, or counter if I need to. But here, straight into the face, it's harder to see than it is to say, see the whole body and then move it in. Yes, the blade comes out of nowhere, but by that time they've already seen my entire body step in. They know what's coming. There's only so much I can do from there. So it's just a way of thinking about it. And it's very common with lunges for people to do this, because you learn a lunge, you learn to extend and do this, right? And let's just say that's how you were taught it. I hope that's how you were taught it. Not everybody was. Or you come from sport fencing, right? Where you try to get these big dynamic lunges. You try to get a big jump. That's a big dynamic move. It's a big move, but it's harder to see. So moving my blade, like in a little bit in time with my body, it's okay. I don't need to move my blade before my body as much because it's such a dynamic, fast movement. Also, there's less, there's things like right of way and stuff like that comes into play depending on the weapon. But think of it this way. As we start to, get better at lunging, right? So we start to think, okay, and we need to move fast, right? Right. So I need to move fast. Sometimes what happens is our knee starts moving before our body. So, and then we do stuff like that. We start doing that. Not a good thing, right? Because you can see that, right? But this is a little bit harder to process by your opponent But the other reason also with that has to do with targeting. And again, this is solely in the lunge. I'm going to talk about cuts and footwork as well. But um, is that when I extend here, I've picked a target, right? If that target changes, like it shifts slightly, right? I can step and then slightly shift it as I need to. I can change my direction. If I step with my body and I extend here, I have fully committed to this step, but I have not picked the target yet. And if I give them the extra time to see my body move, see that full motion and react to it, they may not be there. So when I extend at that last moment, they may not see it. They may not be there because they've already seen where I am. So they've already moved out of the way. They've already done a defensive action. They've already done something else. So it gives them more time to react, right? The smaller that you're moving, and it's kind of the thing when I talked about large steps, the less you're moving, the easier it is for you to have more time to get into your opponent and get that strike. Because if you are taking a big action, they have more time to react. They have now this amount of time to react, right? They have like an extra, like it's like a half a beat or something like that, which is an eternity in the context. But if I extend and I go here and then they change and they do react, say they reacted to this, right? They certainly probably will. I'm not saying everybody's gonna be fast enough that you can get a lunge in and you can react. I at least have the time frame to be like, I did that wrong. Time frame to be like, oh, I can hit here, or oh, I can cut quickly. I can do something different. But if I go here and I commit with my whole body, and then I raise it up and it's not there, I'm dead because by that time my opponent has already reacted. The second reason kind of goes into what I talked about with cutting mechanics last week was that how we lead with the blade. The blade itself, the weapon, is a shield for your body, right? It protects you. You can use it defensively, but with proper form, you can basically, you don't have to worry about as much about getting tagged because your form is properly creating a shield in your offensive actions. So same thing, right? If I extend here and they go to attack my blade, I can adjust it and move around, right? But if I go here and maybe they also stepped in, my blade is say down here or even here. It doesn't have the time to get up here quickly enough if they would have already moved at the same time. But if say we move around the same time and I go to step in and I've already extended and I go to step in and they're coming in with an attack, look, I have a little bit of more options as far as how to defend myself. So that's a couple ways to think about it. Just going to check if there's any questions or comments here. All right. Am I acknowledging, let me flip it here. Am I acknowledging the greatness of Silver? No, I am not. There are advantages to it. Why not just move the body? Why just not move the body? Wait, why not just not move the body? You're referring to why not just extend and never have to. You're referring to why not just extend and never have to get into that lunge range? Is that what you're talking about? So clarify that for me, Mark. But always stab the face to maximize the deficiency of human eyes. To a degree, yes. Yes, it is the most effective place. The most effective place that you can hit your opponent is where they can't see. Here is one place, right? Something that there is obscured, an area that either they obscure with, they do a certain move, they block something, right? Hit them where they can't see. If they are obscuring something with their weapon or the way their stance is, hit them where they can't see you. So screen went black. It's very common for people doing lunges. It's very common for people lunges to do this, and you can't hear. Okay, that was just probably some connectivity issues. I can see it didn't go black on me, so it's good there. All right, cool. Very common for people doing lunges to do back. Looks like it picked up in the same place. Cool. I'm glad it picked up. I that just has to do with the buffering and connectivity and stuff like that. So, yes, extend arm, lunge with foot. Don't move torso. Don't move torso or legs. I will agree that yes, it is always simpler to not move if you can make the target. But if there is scenarios where you need to move in distance, it is you would agree that you still want to make sure that your blade is in front of you and it is the first moving target, because if it's not, the amount of time you give your opponent to react to your movement is much greater than if you didn't. Um, so yes, not moving, is always going to be the smallest move possible is no movement at all, right? Or a very tiny move where you're not actually moving that much in your torso or your legs or anything like that. But I was just kind of referring to it in the concept of like on a basic lunge, for example, what should you be doing? Why do you do those things? And I'll talk about it with cuts as well. Um, so cool. And I apologize for the screen going black. I didn't see it. I have it on play. I had the Facebook feed playing on my tablet here, and it didn't do it. But I'm glad it picked up where it left off. Um, that speaks highly to the Restream service, huh, Mark? Because that's probably the service doing the right thing. Um, anyway, uh, that's a more of an inside thing. So uh, the other thing, yeah, so the main thing I was talking about, like I say, so we talked about lunges and why don't want to do this and move my knee. Yes, it is always faster to be here and extend, to be here and cut, or even to be here and just move a foot, right? Because you don't see that much moving, right? But the difference is that I can't change my distance as much doing that, right? I can change the distance between my opponent if I step my front foot forward, or at an angle or whatever, but it's in some form of forward action. I can change the distance, of my body in relation to my opponent, not actually my blade, my body by moving my back foot, right? So I can adjust that distance. So that actually changes how far away I am from my opponent, but it doesn't change the position of my blade much. It doesn't change there. So yes, standing still can do it, but in this case, I want to refer to it in the context. But also here, on top of that, I'll argue this concept works when you're standing still. If I was going to say drop into a reverse lunge, I do not want to, because reverse lunge, I'm dropping into something, right? Oops, don't have the room there. I'm dropping into something, right? If I'm dropping into a reverse lunge, I do not want to go like this, because you'll see that, and then raise my blade up. I want to raise my blade up and as I'm raising my blade up, I drop into place. And that drops my head down, that changes the level, as it's intended to do with reverse lunge. But I didn't move forward at all. But it is the same thing. I put my blade in front as a defensive option, especially in something like rapier or something. But with this, it's a little less. But on top of that, also, I've extended into them. I've used that if I'm going towards their face. I've used that depth perception problem. And then I've changed the plane that I'm operating on. So in the case of, like, say, reverse lunge, I'm dropping. So that's how I would say that works. I mean, even in the concept of, the incortada, but I forget the term in small, sort of what they called it. But regardless, that kind of stuff, right? I still put my blade out and then take the step. I do not want to step like this and put my blade out. That will give my opponent more of a tell. The most effective fighters who I've seen across different weapons are typically, again, I'm not talking about athleticism or anything like that. I'm talking literally just the people that are able to work this specific element of the least amount of movement or tells possible. Those are the most effective people. and don't necessarily have to be the most athletic people. So that's a big element of making sure that that blade is offering that protection, also offering that defense, and offense. So here, if I extend, I am offering some defense if there's an option where I can parry or something like that, but if just on an extension. But on here, the opponent is not going to step in to that, right? So it gives me that option as well. If I was going to react to someone, like just I was going to move back and react, right? Um, Typically, maybe I would want to go, oh, I want to get back and then like try to hit it away. But in reality, the best way to do it is, right, if I was going to hit away their blade and step back, that's what I would do, right? I would move my blade, get the clearance, and then worst case, as I'm doing that, I take that step back, as opposed to take the step back so they have time to change their view and then try to swipe for a blade that's no longer there. The thing I'm getting at is essentially by leading your blade before is that it has an extra beat of time in which you've already made a offensive decision or defensive, depending on the maneuver, but you've made an offensive decision, and that offensive decision can then be changed as you incorporate the footwork. And again, I know there's people that will argue and say, well, when I do a lunge, it's all at the same time. Yes and no at the same time. When you get to that level, that you're that good, that things are happening at the same time, even a split second, your blade should still theoretically be moving. If you look at the best sport fencers, I'm going to say that because they have the best lunge speed, right? They move their blade before their body in some way. You will never see a sport fencer lunge into it and do this. Like, very occasionally you will, but there's probably another move they did prior to that. But on a basic level, in the majority of interactions, again, there's always an exception. You will see the blade move ever so slightly. So if they're doing a sport fencing thing, you'll see their body start to move here, right? And look, my blade has already started to move, and then they moved out and to do that. I just know that that's one way they do that. I am not a sport fencer by any stretch of the imagination. I have little to no experience with it, only a little historical savor, and very little. But it's the same thing. I'm going to check the comments here real quick because Mark probably says a million things to me, which I love. I'm just saying it. Cool. Let's see. I think there are times to move the body first, and there are times to move the blade first. Yes, but I would argue that on the fundamental level, which is what I'm getting at, are the fundamentals, we are more thinking blade before body, because instinctively, because we have not, if you're newer to the sport or any martial art, your intention is to trust your body instincts as opposed to making the weapon an extension of your body. So if the blade becomes an extension of your body, you know to move this first, and you know it can offer that degree of protection, that timing, all of those things. So there are scenarios in which you could move your body first and it makes perfect sense. Something I can think of, like a Pasada Soto, sort of is like a blade before body. Any type of major Pasada or passing step, not just a basic passing step, but a specific action incorporating a passing step. You might move your body before your blade. But I would argue also that a passing step is at very least a passing step technique, not just the passing step in general. Passing step technique is a more intermediate level. So we're talking about on the fundamental level, most techniques you learn are going to benefit more by moving the blade before the body. I bet without Restream, it wouldn't have gone black. Actually, it probably would have. It probably was more related to my connection, most likely. It went black again. Something about moving the foot at an angle. This is what you get for being extra. Yeah, I think it could just be my internet connection. It's been a little fiddly today related to other things. So it was Volta. Yeah, it was Volta and Demi Volta, now that I remember. So it looks like it's at the same time. It's not all at the same time with the high-speed camera. Exactly. Yeah, when you watch those high-speed camera shots of sport fencers, they are not moving all at the same time. There is a clear difference that happens. So um, the funny thing is, I'm not seeing it go black. I'm looking at like the Facebook feed, and I'm not seeing it go black at all. So that's weird that you're seeing it. Maybe it's you. I'm just messing with you, but I could just be missing it. It might if it's just for a second. So if there is a problem, if you're seeing an issue, someone else says beyond Mark, and I believe that it's happening, but I'm just saying beyond Mark. Let me know, just so I can see if there's anything I can do about it. Really, there's not a whole lot. Let's see. Yeah, my network connection is not like super strong. It's like just above average. Okay. Well, can't do much about it. I already started. We're already half hour in, so let's just keep going and let's hope that everything worked. If worst case scenario, something doesn't work, Restream actually records this whole thing. I will upload the pre-recorded option. But so if it becomes that bad, please let me know. All right, let's go here. All right. So I will talk about just the same concept within a cut. All right. So this one I will say is a little bit you can pull more scenarios in a cutting game where your body could theoretically move before your blade, mainly because in that kind of game you can think about how your body is moving to gain more distance. So if I was doing a counter or contra tempo or counter tempo or against tempo, which is what contra tempo means. I could theoretically do things where like, oh, I go and I'm just trying to think, I bring it down to here and that. So like if I was open here and then I bring it down here and I strike. Yes, I moved my body before my blade, right? I did something. I in a defensive action, avoid obviously is moving the body, but on a void even. So even if I like voided with my head, right? I voided with my head. I'm going to strike and then move in. I'm not going to go bam, bam, and then hit like that, right? Also, I'm not going to lean my head that far forward, but maybe won't go bam, and then I want to hit over here and go like this. I'm going to go bam, bam, right? Um, Same thing with the footwork. If I was incorporating footwork with that, right? I'm not going to void to the side to miss and then go and then bam. I should go bam because there's less time to react for them. So the blade is already moving. They have to take care of it, right? But then as soon as I take the angle, I change the situation. So it gives me an advantage on their reaction because their reaction is for this action. Their reaction is not for this action. And now the position changed. It was a straightforward cut to say the side or the midsection or the shoulder even, right? But now, once I change the angle, it slides over, right? And I don't have to worry about it as much. So that's kind of what I'm talking about with like maneuvering in the cutting game. The main thing is just that if this isn't in front of me protecting me, and I'm not using on a basic level, I'm not using my guards and my distance to properly protect myself, then I'm not protected. And if I move my body and make these bigger actions and I just start moving around and I'm going to attack, okay, I'm going to go here and attack. And I'm going to go here and move around. And I'm just going to do those things. You see that. Your eye can see that as the opponent. But it's harder to see it if I do the same thing. Okay, I'm going to, move around. All right, there, I started my action. And that's also what I mean, blade before body. So blade doesn't even necessarily mean, oh, my blade is in front of my body protecting me. My blade is in action before my body. So if I'm going to take a step forward, bam, right? You can see I've started the action, I've taken the step, and then I'm cutting. But I did not go, which you saw me move in. You saw everything happen. You saw me cut. But here, it's like, oh, he's going to cut at me. And then I step and do it. But then I also have the option of cut and I step. Oh, you changed it. Bam. Okay. I aim it down at their ankle or I tip it. There can be all kinds of things that happen with that. It's like if I was like knocking their blade away, then I could tip it back. It gives you more to do. Now, the other, and it's a very basic reasoning that you would do this, is because you'll have more stability for that second intention, whether that means you're on the move or you're staying still and doing a different attack. If I am here, I step and I want to strike, and then I want to step over, right? And I want to step over and just maybe I want to hit again. I'm just doing a kind of like a redoublement. That can work. I've given my opponent time to react here, and I knock their blade away. They're going to try to do something else, and I want to hit again, right? Why wouldn't I strike, hit, and it doesn't, and I don't hit them, and then this is already moving? Then I can see where the opening is. It gives me more time to react to it because then I can choose. Do I need to step over? Do I need to step in? Do I need to step aside? Do I even need to, like, I don't know, step back, like, just a little step back, right? It gives me a little bit more time in my body to think about it because I think if you're trying to move your body too soon in the tempo, you're basically cutting off. How do I want to say this? You're basically shortening the amount of time that your brain has to adjust to that situation. If I am here and I've already put this in front of me and I know this is an extension of my body, I've extended and I step, my brain is now adjusted that this is the strike I made by the time I've planted my foot, right? I've already made the strike. Say it didn't work, right? Now I have the split second I need to think about the second strike. Bam, okay, I want to go over here. And then I have time to move. If my body is placed already and I do that, I've given them that extra time. Maybe they're coming in with the next move, right? But then if I do the same thing and move my body again, right, I've kept myself open. But basically the concept that I'm getting at there is that when I'm moving that blade, the blade is moving in a more like it's hit, right? Or hit. I'm just talking about a 1-2, basic 1-2 cut. But if I do my body and then hit and it doesn't work, and then I move my body and I hit and it doesn't work, there's a little bit more of a break in there. Here, I am a little more comfortable. I have the ability to also adjust my footwork. So there I felt like, okay, I was tipping a little too far to the left, so I needed to step over a little bit more. I won't have that ability if I plant here, cut, I plant here, and then maybe I'm too far over with this. I'm off balance. My left leg is way to the right side, so my balance is totally shot. But if I go, right, just on a basic cut, I can think about that placement a little bit more. It gives me more time to react to where I want to put my feet when I instinctively have more balance. And that's why I'm saying like it's an important fundamental concept to understand, because the majority of things you're doing when you're first starting out, or at least should be, are basic cuts, basic lunges, basic blocks, basic things like that, right? Basic footwork, right? Steps forward, lunges, couple steps at an angle, nothing too complicated. Anything more and it can get mixed up, muddled, poor execution. There's all kinds of things, right? And then you start to incorporate more techniques, and sometimes then there's situations where you do need to move your body. And I said the pasada soto, or passing or pasada type of technique, right? If I'm doing this, I am moving my blade slightly behind my body. because I'm slightly reacting. So I'm going to step, right? And then I'm moving it up, and this doesn't work as well with a LED saber, but with rapier quick. Right, if I'm here and I want to do Pasada Soto, I'm going to step like that, and I do this because it protects me on that higher hit, and I strike them, and I've closed a lot of distance in the process. Right, you can see kind of like there. So there, I'm stepping and then bringing it up. So because if they decided to change their action, I have flexibility to do it. So there's a situation where yes, you want to do that, but I will also say I was doing this for a year or so before I even started doing the Pasada Soto or like a passing step technique where I might do something like that. So that's yes, there are situations where that is valid. It just depends on when you're first starting out. There probably are very few situations where it is valid. All right, so all right, cool. And then argument can be made that with cuts, it might be beneficial to move the foot first, being that the hand is faster than the foot to time hits and footfall at the same time, which is harped on in Japanese systems. There are, like I say, I know this is applicable to other systems and other things. I'm just looking at it on the basic concept of, because also you're talking about moving the foot first, but you're not talking about moving your torso. You're not talking about moving your torso and your legs, right? If I'm doing a basic basic footwork forward, the assumption is that my leg is the only thing moving, right? And I'm thinking about Japanese. If I think about Japanese footwork, I would argue that they are very good at concealing their movement of their upper body. But when we're first starting out, the ability to conceal the movement of our upper body is limited. So doing this as we start out is an important thing to consider so we can start, basically be more effective at what we're able to do. And then as we get better at reducing the movement in, say, our torso, we can start to incorporate some body before blade kind of things. So, and Christian said it was good on his end, so cool. Who cuts anymore though? So gross. It's you can win on a cut. I know you don't, but I think it's certainly possible. I think it just depends. This, but I'm saying it for the benefit of everybody. Judges see cuts better than they see thrusts. Does not matter the weapon. I've seen it in every tournament where a thrust does not get called out properly. And I say every tournament, I mean every tournament I've ever judged in. I've seen situations where a thrust is not called, whether I was the judge or director or somebody else was judging or directing, where they do not call out the thrust as easily as they call out the cut. So that's the advantage of doing cuts within that, within our system or any system. Not necessarily in a rapier system, because that is literally a thrusting weapon or other thrusting weapons. But there's a much bigger action. Despite it being slower in tempo and time, it's not the worst thing to say, like, okay, I'm going to do this cut because I know I can pull off this move and get the point, and they will definitely see the point. I mean, how many points have I gotten, or have I gotten on a thrust or a push cut? When I mean a push cut, I mean like if I'm moving my blade in and I push again, so I didn't quite thrust into them, but I just pushed the blade off. How many points have I gotten not received in different matches where I should have gotten them? I was the first one to the target, but it was not seen because it was the smaller action. So the smaller action sometimes can bite us a little bit in regards to the type of attack. And that's part of the, subjective nature to judging. It's never going to be perfect until we have specific objective, like some form of sensor, to do that. But in reality, it's hard to create that kind of scenario. And, most of the electronics that exist with sabers, most of the electronics that exist with sport fencing does not work for our system. and never really will. And then the fighting systems which have sensors, like sensor here, sensor here. It's like sensor on all the major targets. Like say you had like I don't know 10 to 20 sensors on, or 10 to 15 sensors on. You have to hit a specific point. So then yeah, that can work, but then we lose the thing of like, well, any hit to the arm is a point. Well, in reality, if there's sensors, one here, and one here, I got to hit one of these three sensors, or that's it, right? Um, I can think of one match. I can think of, yeah, I mean, granted, you were only present for probably two of them, but I can think of at least five matches where they choose not to see them, or they don't see them, or whatever. Uh, so that is a definite thing that you want to keep in consideration to why you use cuts at a certain point. I mean, military saber, the whole thing of that is like, you can lunge and cut, you can lunge and thrust, you can lunge and thrust into a cut, you can cut and then lunge, like that's a common thing, right? With military saber. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. So it was about 45 minutes, a little less. So, is there any questions about that topic? Something doesn't make sense? Anything I need to elaborate on or talk about? Let me know now so I can answer that. And before we either I answer any other questions, which I will answer, just put them in and wrap up and everything. So, not going super long today, but I just want to make sure everybody knows now's the time to do that. Um, some updates, things to consider. I know people probably look at, people pay attention to the news, and they're, everybody's like looking at new CDC guidelines. TSL is working on that stuff. I have no clue. I'm not in those conversations. But I just want to let you know. I know that it is being worked on as far as like what the new guidelines and everything. So, uh, and as he said, it's hard to troll as much quoting our Lord and Savior Hutton. Um, yeah, I know. That's the thing. It's just that's why I called it out, because I knew it's something a philosophy that you ascribe to. So I wanted to impact your trolling by telling you to go back under the bridge. So, like I said, the new CDC stuff in relation to Combat Con and everything, and meets and all that stuff. There'll probably be information coming to that soon. I couldn't tell you how soon. I have no idea. So, but for right now, everything exists as it exists. Combat Con has their rules for attending. If you have questions about Combat Con, go to Combat Con's site, combatcon.com. Just going to give you that. Okay. That's the website for Combat Con, where we will have our 5th international tournament, TSL 5. Standard, exotics, women's 50 plus. Those are the 4 divisions. And if you have questions about that, we can answer those. So I just wanted to give that plug. There's obviously lots of other things to do at Combat Con. The Sunday of Combat Con, we will have open sparring all day, so you do not have to fight in the tournaments. There are HEMA tournaments, there are other classical fencing tournaments, there are lots of workshops and other things to do. So I just wanted to give that plug. Flipping back in with Quarantine TV stuff. Next week, Monday, Tuesday, Alec Martinez on Monday, Mark on Tuesday, myself on Thursday. I'll give this update to my schedule. I actually haven't necessarily mentioned to anybody within the Quarantine TV people, but 2 weeks from now, I will not be going live on Thursday. I'm either going to go live on Wednesday or Friday. Primarily because I am filming an underground episode on that Thursday. So that's going to be what's happening there. So basically, I'm filming when I would normally be having my show. So I'll just go on live on a different day. So it'll just be a change for that one day. And like I said, it'll either be Wednesday or Friday, so it's 2 weeks from now, not next week. Next week, I'm still planning to go on Thursday. I'm just looking at the. It says the 20. Wait, that's not the right month. That's the 27th that I will be filming, and then the 20th I will be live. So on the 26th or the 28th is when I will be going going live with my show. Let's see. So no other chat things coming in. No questions that I see. So I think we can wrap up. I don't know if there's anything else. So are there other questions for anybody watching? And if you're watching this after the fact and you have questions, I'm here to answer them. I can answer them in the comments or something like that. So you don't have to be limited to that kind of thing. So um, I'm surprised no one commented on my shirt. It's just the shirt I happen to wear, and I like the trolling aspect as well. And I do enjoy Star Trek and Star Wars, so don't have an issue wearing a shirt for one while talking about a sport based upon the weapons of another universe. So it'd be like if Mark wore like a Stargate shirt or something like that. All right. So Alicia said, "I wish there were people close, maybe summer after the border opens." Yeah, I mean, I didn't. I don't think anybody expected changes coming today like they were. I think that's going to change how a lot of people approach the next few months. Um, that's what's going on. We'll see. I think there'll be a lot more travel after. I think after the summer. I'm hoping. That's we have opened for fall. There will be some fall events related to TSL. I think there's one on the calendar right now in September with Wisconsin. So that's what's going on there. So hopefully that changes. And then yeah, why haven't you made a new theme for us? Mm, uh, because I've been doing 20 other things related to TSL 5 and other stuff. Uh, and then time to include Batleth. I mean, it's an interesting weapon, but yeah, I know what you mean by Batleth. I think you were like one letter off or something like that, but it doesn't matter. Uh, I don't necessarily like. I've held a couple that are like weighted a little more properly. I don't necessarily like the weapon itself. I think there's some cool things you can do with it, but it is a weapon made for a for a fantasy series. So that's kind of what I just it's a weapon made for fantasy, the same as the lightsaber is. There's a lot of practicalities that don't work with the lightsaber, and there's a couple things that are really cool with the way the batleth works, but um, I don't know. Like I haven't seen it. I don't. I could argue that there's probably not too many great fights in Star Trek that involve a batleth, mainly because like it's mostly like they're here and then they swing, they can grab it and swing and then grab it from the different handles, and they can there's the only cool thing that I think I like about the batleth that's a good practical thing is they can go here and then like raise it up or raise it down as they need to, so they can use both the back and the front very easily, and it's very easily to pivot it. um, I think it's kind of ridiculous, when they do these big swings and try to get these killer shots and stuff like that. It's not the most elegant weapon from a more civilized age. But I still enjoy watching some of the fights because they tend to be with Klingons, and they tend to be the more dramatic fights. My husband has a shirt that says Star Trek, but has Vader and Luke on the front. Amazing, it doesn't phase people. I've never gotten one of them. I've thought about getting one of the ones that are essentially yeah, just screwing everything up. I've seen ones that are Star Wars posters that have Star Trek characters on it. So it's essentially like the New Hope poster, but it has Star Trek characters in it. So that's definitely what's going on. You mean people are busy doing TSL stuff behind the scenes? Yes, there are people working hard to make TSL 5 happen, to make future things happen, and bring other good programs to the media, to our media package, and to plan for the future. So, if you can include one fantasy or sci-fi or whatever weapon into TSL, well, see, I just want to include like real weapons, different real weapons into TSL, like real weapon equivalents of an LED saber. Um, yeah, I will say of Star Trek weapons. Speaking of Spock, um, the weapon when they, I don't remember the name of it. It's the original series when they have Spock goes through Ponfar and he fights Kirk on Vulcan. I really do like the ones that are like the staffs that have the big heavy weight on the end, and then essentially like the scythe on the end. I like that one. I do think that's a cool weapon. So you could theoretically, weight on one end, and then like a saber blade that's just like on the end. You don't even necessarily have to curve it, but like you can figure out a way to do it. That'd be great. Maybe you just do two blades like this, so it kind of curves, and then you have that like kind of sight. It's like I like that. I think that's a cooler weapon, but maybe also I'm just a fan of Cable Guy, in that uh, Cable Guy. Also, they fought with those in at medieval times. If you've ever seen the Jim Carrey movie Cable Guy, which a lot of people credit with delaying Jim Carrey's rise after in the 90s. But I actually love the movie. Actually, odd, fun story. Ben Stiller directed that, The Cable Guy. But it's a great dark comedy if you've never seen it. So, and they use those weapons. I'm gonna look up the name now because I can't remember. All right, let me take a look here. The Lirpa, Lirpa, metal staff with a fan-shaped blade on one end and the club on the other. So yeah, that's what that is. So I like that weapon, just because of the weighting and everything, and I don't know. I like the way it handles that. It seemed like there are multiple ways you could approach that weapon, and it doesn't all just need to be, oh, you grab with the big swing and like hit them. Yes, you can do that, but it seemed like there was a little more functionality out of that weapon than some of the other hand to hand weapons that exist. Um, yeah, or like the Klingon dagger is like, I always like how cool it looks because it has all these little gaps and everything, but it always seemed like weird to me. It seems like it would just be a way to like shred someone's insides if you stab them. But in the way it's used for a lot of times to like trap weapons is kind of kind of interesting, but again, not exactly. I say grounded in reality, but it's like when I say that is I'm going to use a big word here, verisimilitude, which is a sense of realism, which is kind of like that doesn't necessarily mean it is reality, like it's what would happen in the real world, but it feels real. So it's verisimilitude if you want to look that one up. And okay, let's see here. Who said it? Okay, Christian said Shadow versus breakdown of the battle. Yeah, I forget the spelling of it exactly, Mark, I said it had to be fantasy, so I think I covered that with the Lirpa from the original series from I don't know whatever the name of that episode was. Is that Amok Time? No, it's not Amok Time. Is it Amok Time? I'm gonna literally look it up. Ponfar. Yeah, this is like super nerdy sci-fi that has nothing to do with LED sabers, but let's see, biology of it. Notable instances on Star Trek. See, that is like in the universe, so I need to see. Yeah, no, it is Amok Time. Yes, I knew my classic series. Okay, Amok Time. Uh, okay time. That is the yeah. There it is. So cool. I knew it. I'm happy I knew it. Uh, that is too big of a word. Verisimilitude. Its verisimilitude is SIMILUTED. So, am I killing you because I didn't know it, or because I used the term verisimilitude? But that is the downside. Like as I've mentioned in the past, because I went to film school, I learned all these big words to learn about how they describe narratives and all this stuff. So just occasionally, some of those words. Here, I will. I don't need to text it to you. See, I can show everybody how it looks. Here we go. All right. See, I can do it fancy. Verisimilitude. That's the word. And I'll give you the dictionary. The appearance of being true or real. So again, it does not necessarily, like it comes from philosophy, but in the sense of a film narrative or a movie or TV show or whatever, any type of visual narrative, it is that something appears to be to feel real or true. So even in a fantasy series, that there's some grounding in a reality that makes sense. So um, just so we have an idea of what that means. So cool. And verisimilitude. Yeah, I'm going to use it. Like verisimilitude, I'm trying to think like the first example, the primary example that was used in the film textbooks, I remember, was Superman the movie. That the term verisimilitude was used a heck of a lot in that one because you could, the whole kind of you believe a man can fly kind of thing, but it felt grounded in a certain reality. It wasn't insanely implausible. The powers that he had, they felt grounded in a reality, whereas opposed to certain other or the sequels, to Superman, even Superman 2, which people enjoy, um, loses some of that because it loses some of that reality, some of that again verisimilitude. So it's just a fancy word, but it's needed to, because you need to look up the episode. Otherwise, it would have driven you nuts. I get it. Huge Hammer horror film fan. I do it all the time. Yeah, I mean, I had to look it up only because I didn't want to be wrong. Because if I said it was, if I said it was Mirror Mirror, which it was clearly not Mirror Mirror, um, episode of the original series, I would have, and it was Amok Time. I would have literally probably come back into the comments and said like, it was this. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I'd rather be like somewhat think I'm wrong and then take the 5 seconds to like look it up, because I have everything on a computer right in front of me. I'm not limited to like a phone. This is a camera, not a phone. So it just makes it easier to do that. So okay. We're coming up on an hour. Are there any other questions or crazy things you need me to answer before I log off? I will give 30 seconds or so before I do that. But I will say, as far as so now, this marks off the body before blade. So I just like to mark off on my list. I have 6 more topics. There were 13 topics that originally started. This is the 7th time I've talked about TSL Bad Habits. Doesn't mean that the show won't get interrupted for some other purpose, but that is the current tally of the TSL Bad Habits and how to fix them. I have half of them are on YouTube and Facebook, and the other half are in the Facebook group. So I'll let you, as Mark said, he'll let me free from the trolling. Have a good night. So yeah, not seeing any other questions. So that's everything I got right now. As I said, watch the other Quarantine TV episodes. We're going to have some other programming coming up, specifically related to CombatCon, coming up in the near future. Maybe the next couple of weeks. There'll be some other social media updates related to TSL coming out in the next couple of weeks. On the 22nd, which is very, very close, which is less than 2 weeks away. 22nd? 22nd, Saturday the 22nd. So it's a little over a week away, right? We have another episode of Underground happening. That is and then we have a bunch of matches for that. So look forward to that event. And then again, there will be continually have Corn TV stuff. There will be a couple other things down the line before Combat Con, event, online event kind of things happening as well. So a lot of fun things happening. Stay tuned to our YouTube, our Facebook group, our Facebook page, for any of those kind of updates, and maybe some other areas where you'll be able to track information. Sign up for TSL 5, and everything. So this is Melody, and the 22nd. So we are good to go there, and then and that should be exciting as well. So you get to have more of that online interaction. We get to have the live commentary while we're talking about TSL fights, which essentially is what we like to do. We like to watch the matches when we're online, right? So there'll be more of that, and then before you know it, TSL 5 will be here, and we'll have all that, most of the action streaming to you, hopefully, assuming, knock on wood, the internet works. We have a good setup and nothing superbly breaks. So worst case, we'll have a phone getting you one ring of action at the very least. Well, I guess at the very least, we record it all, pre-record it, and then post it later. But I seriously don't want to do that. So stay tuned for TSL 5 online footage if you're not going to be there in person. So, all right, take care. United through Sabres, and yeah, have a good one.